What if the best sandwich you ever eat costs less than $1, and someone already figured it out 50 years ago? Number 1 on this list uses 4 ingredients that together cost 94 cents in 1974. Number 7 was packed into school lunches across the American Midwest for 11 straight years without a single complaint. Number 14 was invented by a factory worker in Detroit who had exactly 8 minutes between shifts and fed herself on it 5 days a week for 3 winters. Number 19 appeared in 17 different 1970s community cookbooks under 17 different names because every neighborhood thought they invented it. These are not recipes. These are solutions. They were engineered by people who were tired, underpaid, and still feeding families with dignity. Everything you are about to hear was already in your grandmother's kitchen. You just stopped asking her about it. If that matters to you, subscribe, because the countdown starts right now. Number 25, the open-face tomato melt. You need bread, a tomato, American cheese, and butter. In 1973, that combination cost 31 cents per serving. Today, it runs about $1.20, which still makes it one of the most honest meals in this entire list. You lay the bread flat on a baking sheet. You slice the tomato thick, not thin, thick, so it holds its shape under heat. You lay the cheese over it. You slide it under the broiler, and you wait. The cheese bubbles at the edges first. Then it browns in small spots. The tomato softens but does not collapse. The smell is summer and salt and something you cannot name but recognize immediately. This sandwich traces directly to the post-war American South, where home broilers became common in the early 1950s, and tomatoes were grown in nearly every backyard garden. It was not fancy. It was not meant to be. When you are exhausted and the thought of cooking feels impossible, 4 minutes under a broiler is all this asks of you. That is a fair trade. Number 24, peanut butter and pickle. Bread, peanut butter, dill pickles. In 1971, a jar of peanut butter cost 59 cents and a jar of pickles cost 49 cents. Together, they fed one person for most of a week. You spread the peanut butter generously, not thin, generous. The pickle slices go on in a single overlapping layer. The brine from the pickle cuts directly through the fat of the peanut butter. The contrast is sharp and immediate. The crunch of the pickle against the softness of the bread creates something your brain registers as satisfying in a way that is hard to explain. This combination appeared in lunch pail culture across the American Midwest throughout the 1960s and 1970s. Factory workers, farmers, and railroad men carried it wrapped in wax paper. Nobody called it a recipe. They called it lunch. The sodium in the pickle replaces what you lose when you are too tired to eat a full meal. Your body knows what it needs. This sandwich delivers it without asking much in return. Number 23, cream cheese and olive. White bread, cream cheese, sliced green olives. A block of cream cheese in 1975 cost 49 cents. A small jar of olives cost 65 cents. This sandwich appeared at every church social and neighborhood potluck across the American Northeast for 3 straight decades. You spread the cream cheese thick enough to hold the olives in place. The olives go on whole or sliced, depending on your preference and your energy level. The saltiness of the olive against the cool softness of the cream cheese is the entire point. Nothing is cooked, nothing is heated. You make it cold and you eat it cold. This is a bridge club sandwich, a funeral reception sandwich, a ladies' luncheon sandwich. It was served on trimmed white bread with the crusts removed at gatherings where women fed other women without anyone making a fuss about it. When you have no energy for heat and no patience for a pan, this sandwich is already done before you finish thinking about it.
Number 22.
Fried egg sandwich. 2 eggs, 2 slices of bread, butter, salt. In 1972, eggs cost 38 cents a dozen. This sandwich cost approximately 12 cents to make and filled a grown adult completely. You melt the butter in the pan over medium heat until it foams. The eggs go in. The whites set from the edges inward. You break the yolk if you want something that won't run, or leave it whole if you want that moment when it breaks across the bread. Salt goes on while the egg is still in the pan. The bread goes in dry or toasted. The egg slides on top. The fried egg sandwich is working-class food on every continent. In Britain, it is a breakfast staple. In America, it was a Depression-era dinner. In the American South, it was what you made when the grocery money ran short before the week did. 2 minutes, 1 pan, 1 plate. When exhaustion makes everything feel impossible, this sandwich asks almost nothing. Number 21. Tuna and celery on toast. 1 can of tuna, 1 stalk of celery, mayonnaise, toast. In 1974, a can of tuna cost 29 cents. This sandwich cost less than 50 cents total and delivered more protein per dollar than almost anything else on a 1970s grocery shelf. You drain the tuna completely. You chop the celery fine so every bite has crunch without dominating. You add just enough mayonnaise to bind it, not so much that it becomes wet. You spread it on toast while the toast is still hot so the edges crisp against the filling. The celery snaps. The tuna is dense and savory. The toast crackles when you press it. Tuna salad sandwiches became American pantry staples during World War II rationing and never fully left. They appeared in community cookbooks from Maine to California throughout the 1960s and 1970s, always described in the same language: simple, nourishing, practical. 1 can of tuna, 1 sandwich, 1 meal handled. That is all this needs to be. Number 20. Deviled ham on rye. A can of deviled ham spread, rye bread, yellow mustard. In 1970, a can of Underwood deviled ham cost 39 cents. It was the convenience food of the working class before anyone used the phrase convenience food. You open the can. You spread it directly onto the rye. The mustard goes on the opposite slice, just a thin layer, enough to cut the richness of the ham. The 2 slices come together. The rye has its own mild sourness that meets the spiced ham exactly where it needs to be met. Underwood deviled ham is the oldest trademarked food product in the United States, first sold in 1822 and reformulated into its familiar can by the 1860s. By the 1970s, it was in pantries from New England to the Gulf Coast. Working families kept it on the shelf the way they kept aspirin, because you always needed it eventually. No cooking, no preparation, no dishes beyond the knife. Here is something nobody says out loud. There is a kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. It is the tiredness of carrying too much for too long without anyone noticing the weight. It is the tiredness of being the one who figures it out every single day, no matter what. The women who wrote those 1970s community cookbooks knew that tiredness personally. They did not write about it. They just built it into the recipes. They made the steps shorter. They made the ingredient lists smaller. They assumed the reader was already running on empty, because most of them were too. These sandwiches are not about laziness. They never were. They are about conserving what little you have left at the end of the day, so that tomorrow you can do it all over again. Someone understood that about you before you were born. They just put it in a cookbook instead of saying it directly. Number 18. Cottage cheese and cucumber. Whole wheat bread, cottage cheese, thinly sliced cucumber, salt. In 1976, a container of cottage cheese cost 59 cents. This sandwich was a staple of the diet culture that swept American women's magazines in the early 1970s. But it survived because it actually worked. You spread the cottage cheese directly on the bread. The cucumber goes on in overlapping thin slices. Salt goes on the cucumber before the top slice of bread, so it draws out just enough moisture to soften the cucumber slightly. The result is cool, dense, and filling in a quiet way. This sandwich appeared in Weight Watchers handouts, church diet circles, and women's magazine recipe columns throughout the 1970s. It was the food of women trying to take care of themselves while taking care of everyone else, often with limited money and zero time. It costs less than $1. It requires no heat. It is done in 90 seconds.
Number 17. Bologna and mustard. White bread, bologna, yellow mustard. In 1973, a pound of bologna cost 69 cents. 1 pound made roughly 6 sandwiches. That is less than 12 cents per sandwich when mustard is factored in. You lay 2 slices of bologna flat. You spread mustard on the bread, one side only, or both, depending on how much you want. The bologna goes on directly. The sandwich is assembled in under a minute. The bologna is soft and salty, with a slight snap at the edges if it is fresh from the package. The mustard cuts through the fat with a clean sharpness. Bologna is descended from Italian mortadella, brought to America by immigrant communities in the late 1800s. By the mid-20th century, it had become the affordable lunch meat of the American working class. School cafeterias, lunch pails, roadside diners, bologna was everywhere. And it was there because it was reliable. When the week is long and the energy is gone, reliability is worth something. Number 16. Pimento cheese. White bread, pimento cheese spread. In 1972, homemade pimento cheese cost roughly 40 cents per cup, using sharp cheddar at 89 cents a pound, a small jar of pimentos at 35 cents, and mayonnaise already in the refrigerator. You make it by grating the cheese coarsely, chopping the pimentos, and folding both into just enough mayonnaise to hold them together. It spreads like soft butter. On white bread, it is orange and creamy and sharp all at once. Cold from the refrigerator, it is dense. At room temperature, it softens and becomes something altogether different. Pimento cheese is a Southern American institution. It appeared in cookbooks as early as 1908 and spread through the Southeast over the following decades until it became an essential at every church supper, family reunion, and Sunday gathering from Virginia to Texas. Make a batch on Sunday. It keeps 4 days. Every tired evening this week, it is already waiting for you. Number 15. Sardine and onion on toast. Toast, canned sardines in oil, thinly sliced white onion, a squeeze of lemon if you have it. In 1974, a tin of sardines cost 29 cents. This was the fisherman's sandwich, the dock worker's sandwich, the lunch of people who needed protein and did not have time to argue about it. You drain the sardines partially, not completely, because the oil is part of the flavor. You lay them on the toast and press gently. The onion goes on in thin half rings. The lemon, if it exists in your kitchen, goes on last. The sardine is rich and oceanic. The onion is sharp and alive. The toast holds everything together with a structural crunch. Sardine sandwiches were common across Scandinavian American and Portuguese American communities throughout New England in the mid-20th century. They were carried in lunch pails to canneries, docks, and processing plants by workers who earned very little and needed to keep going. High protein, long shelf life, no cooking required. This is engineering. Number 14. Cream of tomato soup sandwich. This one requires an explanation. white bread, butter, and a can of condensed tomato soup, used not as soup, but as a thick spread heated briefly in a pan. In 1971, a can of Campbell's condensed tomato soup cost 12 cents. 12 cents. You heat the condensed soup without adding water. It becomes thick and spreadable almost immediately. You butter one slice of bread and spread the warm tomato concentrate on the other. The two slices come together. The warmth from the soup softens the bread slightly. The flavor is tomato and salt, and something almost sweet. This technique appeared in several 1970s budget cookbooks aimed at young families. It was a way of making something warm and filling out of what was already in the pantry. Women in tight financial situations traded this idea at kitchen tables and over telephone lines, and wrote it into the margins of cookbooks. 12 cents. Warm. Done. Some nights, that is everything. Number 13. Here is where things get personal. There is a memory that lives in a specific smell. It is not a grand memory. It is the memory of walking into a kitchen where someone was making something simple, something that did not require an occasion or a reason. The sandwich was already on the plate before you said you were hungry. The person who made it did not ask if you wanted it. They already knew. That is a kind of intelligence that never appears in cookbooks because it cannot be written down. It is the intelligence of paying attention to someone over years until you know what they need before they know it themselves. These recipes carry that intelligence inside them. Not in the ingredients, in the economy of them. In the fact that someone chose the shortest path between hunger and fullness because they had already spent everything else that day. Number 12. Apple and cheddar. Whole grain bread, sharp cheddar, thinly sliced apple. In 1975, a pound of sharp cheddar cost 89 cents, and apples cost 25 cents a pound at fall farmers markets. This sandwich costs under 60 cents to assemble and requires no heat whatsoever. You slice the apple thin enough to bend slightly without breaking. The cheddar goes on in flat overlapping pieces. The apple goes on top of the cheese. The two slices of bread come together. You press gently. The apple gives slightly under the pressure and releases a small amount of juice that softens the bread just barely. The sharpness of the cheddar and the sweetness of the apple work in complete opposition and complete harmony simultaneously. This pairing has roots in English farmhouse tradition, carried to New England and the rural American Midwest by settlers in the 18th and 19th centuries. By the 1970s, it appeared in American home economics textbooks as an example of balanced nutrition at low cost. No cooking, no heat, no dishes, just a knife and a cutting board. Number 11. Egg salad. Hard-boiled eggs, mayonnaise, salt, white bread. In 1973, a dozen eggs cost 38 cents. 2 eggs per sandwich. Each sandwich cost under 10 cents in egg cost alone. You hard-boil the eggs the night before if you have the presence of mind. You chop them, not too fine, not too coarse. Enough mayonnaise to hold them together. Salt. That is it. The filling is pale yellow and soft with small, firm pieces of white throughout. It smells clean and rich at the same time. On soft white bread, it is almost pillowy in texture. You eat it and feel filled in a complete way. Egg salad sandwiches were a standard offering at American lunch counters throughout the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s. They appeared on drugstore soda fountain menus and hospital cafeteria trays and church fellowship tables because eggs were always available and always affordable. Make 6 eggs on Sunday. The rest of the week's lunches are handled. Number 10. Liverwurst and raw onion. Rye or pumpernickel bread, liverwurst, raw white onion. In 1972, liverwurst cost 59 cents per half pound. This was Eastern European immigrant food that crossed the Atlantic with German, Polish, and Czech communities and settled permanently in the American Midwest. You slice the liverwurst thick. It should hold its shape on the bread. The onion goes on in thin rings. No condiment is required, though mustard is welcome if it exists in your refrigerator. The liverwurst is dense and mineral-forward and deeply savory. The raw onion is aggressive and sharp. Together, they are not for everyone. They are for someone who knows exactly what they want and does not require anyone else's approval of it. Liverwurst sandwiches appeared on the menus of German-American delicatessens from Milwaukee to Cincinnati to St. Louis throughout the mid-20th century. They were the lunch of butchers, bakers, factory workers, and shopkeepers. High in iron, high in B vitamins, high in the kind of flavor that requires no apology. Number 9. Honey and butter. White bread, real butter, honey. In 1976, a pound of butter cost 89 cents, and a small jar of honey cost 79 cents. Together, they lasted weeks. Each sandwich cost under 15 cents. You soften the butter until it spreads without tearing the bread. You spread it all the way to the edges. The honey goes on the opposite slice in a thin pour. The two slices come together, and you press them gently. The honey runs slightly toward the crust. The butter keeps it from making the bread wet. What you get is sweet and rich and soft in every direction. Honey and butter on bread is ancient food. It appears in the culinary traditions of nearly every culture that kept bees, from ancient Egypt to rural Appalachia. In 1970s America, it was the food of tired mothers at 10 o'clock in the evening, when the children were finally asleep and the house was quiet, and there was nothing left to give to anyone. This sandwich is yours. It is not for the table. It is for the quiet.
Fried bologna sandwich. When regular bologna wasn't enough, workers fried it up for extra flavor. The heat transformed thin bologna slices into crispy, curved cups that held other ingredients perfectly. Smart cooks scored the edges to prevent excessive curling. The frying process caramelized the meat's surface while keeping the center tender. White bread got toasted in the same pan, soaking up those savory drippings. Yellow mustard and maybe an onion slice completed the masterpiece. The sandwich offered more flavor than its cold cousin, perfect for weekend breakfast or hearty lunch. Factory workers could fry bologna on any hot surface, making it practical for workplace cooking. Sloppy Joe. The Sloppy Joe brought messy satisfaction to lunch tables everywhere. Ground beef simmered in sweet tomato sauce created the perfect filling for hamburger buns. The sauce balanced tangy ketchup with brown sugar sweetness, while onions added texture and bite. School cafeterias served them by the thousands. Home cooks made them for easy weeknight dinners. The sandwich required both hands and plenty of napkins. Eating one meant accepting the inevitable drips and spills. Smart eaters learned to catch falling meat with their tongues. Despite the mess, or maybe because of it, Sloppy Joes represented pure comfort food that satisfied hungry workers and growing kids alike. Chicken salad sandwich. Chicken salad sandwiches elevated leftover roast chicken into something special. Diced chicken breast mixed with mayonnaise and chopped celery formed the classic base. Experienced cooks added grapes for sweetness, almonds for crunch, or curry powder for exotic flavor. The secret was seasoning balance. Salt, pepper, and a touch of lemon juice brightened the whole mixture. Some preferred it chunky, others liked it smooth. Soft bread worked best, letting the creamy filling shine without competing textures. Office ladies could eat them delicately at desk lunches. The sandwich represented refinement on a budget, transforming simple ingredients into something that felt almost fancy while remaining thoroughly practical. Pimento cheese sandwich. Pimento cheese sandwiches brought Southern comfort to working folks everywhere. Sharp cheddar cheese mixed with mayonnaise and diced pimentos created a spread that conquered hearts across America. The secret was grating the cheese fresh, pre-shredded, never achieved the same creamy consistency. Red pimentos added color and mild sweetness, while mayonnaise bound everything together. Some cooks added cream cheese for extra richness or hot sauce for heat. The mixture spread easily on soft white bread and lasted for days. Country stores sold it by the pound. Factory workers could eat it without refrigeration. The sandwich delivered familiar flavors that reminded everyone of home cooking and grandmother's kitchen. Patty melt. The patty melt bridged the gap between hamburger and grilled cheese with genius simplicity. A beef patty grilled with caramelized onions and melted cheese between slices of rye bread created diner perfection. The secret was cooking everything together. Onions caramelized in beef drippings, while cheese melted over hot meat. Butter grilled the bread golden, while melting the cheese completely. Swiss cheese was traditional, but American worked too. The sandwich required skilled timing to get everything perfectly melted and toasted simultaneously. Truck stop diners served them around the clock. Short-order cooks could make them on any flat-top grill. The combination of flavors and textures created something greater than the sum of its parts. Roast beef and horseradish sandwich. Roast beef and horseradish sandwiches brought steakhouse flavors to the lunch pail. Thinly sliced roast beef paired with prepared horseradish created a combination that cleared sinuses and satisfied appetites. The horseradish's sharp heat balanced the beef's rich, savory flavor perfectly. Experienced eaters learned to spread horseradish sparingly. A little went a long way. Soft rolls worked better than sliced bread for containing the juicy filling. Some added lettuce for crunch or tomato for acidity. The sandwich represented luxury eating for working folks, transforming affordable deli meat into something that felt expensive. Factory workers appreciated the protein while enjoying flavors that reminded them of special occasion dining. Fish stick sandwich. Fish stick sandwiches transformed frozen convenience food into legitimate meals. Crispy fish sticks, layered between bread with tartar sauce, created kid-friendly satisfaction that adults secretly enjoyed too. The secret was toasting the bread and heating the fish sticks until genuinely crispy. Soggy components ruined everything. Tartar sauce was essential, though some preferred ketchup or hot sauce. Lettuce added fresh crunch, while cheese slices contributed richness. The sandwich worked for quick dinners when nothing else sounded good. Kids could assemble them independently once fish sticks finished cooking. Despite humble origins, the combination of flavors and textures created something genuinely satisfying that filled stomachs without breaking budgets or requiring culinary skills. Grilled cheese sandwich. The grilled cheese sandwich reigned supreme in American kitchens for decades. 2 slices of white bread, butter, and American cheese created magic when pressed in a hot skillet. The golden crust gave way to molten cheese that stretched from sandwich to mouth in perfect strings. Factory workers could make them on hot plates. Kids could master them by age 10. Construction crews heated them on radiators. The sandwich required no fancy ingredients or complicated techniques, just patience to let the butter brown and the cheese melt completely. Every bite delivered comfort food perfection that satisfied both hunger and soul, making it the ultimate working man's meal. Cheese and pickle sandwich. Cheese and pickle sandwiches proved that simple combinations often worked best. Sharp cheddar cheese paired with dill pickle slices created flavor contrast that delighted taste buds. The pickle's acidity cut through cheese richness while adding satisfying crunch. Butter spread on bread added richness and helped everything hold together. Some preferred sweet pickles for different flavor balance. The sandwich assembled quickly and traveled well without refrigeration for short periods. British influences made them popular in certain regions where pickle appreciation ran deep. Office workers could make them at desk drawers with basic supplies. The combination of familiar flavors created something that felt both comforting and refreshing without requiring cooking skills or expensive ingredients. Turkey and Swiss. Turkey and Swiss sandwiches brought delicatessen sophistication to everyday lunch. Sliced turkey, paired with Swiss cheese, created combinations that felt more elegant than ham and American. The turkey's mild flavor let Swiss cheese's nutty richness shine, while providing lean protein that didn't weigh workers down. Lettuce and tomato added freshness and color, while mayo bound everything together smoothly. Some preferred mustard for tang, or avocado for richness. The sandwich worked on various breads, but really shone on fresh rolls that complemented rather than competed with the filling. Office workers appreciated the lighter feeling compared to heavier meat combinations, while still getting complete satisfaction and sustained energy for afternoon productivity.